On this week's show, we'll be discussing Xbox exclusives racing onto PlayStation, a shake-up to PlayStation leadership team, and Ubisoft closed multiple studios amongst a restructuring. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game news and stories right here for your listening or viewing pleasure, right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital cloud on your podcast preference of choice. Your podcast players for this week are myself, Mr. Richie, and Mr. Chris.
Hello gamers, hope you're all well, ready for a week of gaming news.
Indeed, because we do have a great show lined up for you. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you keep in the loop of all our amazing content here at GamerGuildTV, such as our meant to be weekly live streams, which I'll put my hand up to. The reason one didn't happen this week is you were away with work, Chris.
Yeah.
And I've just been insanely busy both at work and in personal life trying to sell a house. So by the time I got in from work on Thursday, I had nothing prepared. Didn't have it. I was going to go for Ninja Gaiden, but didn't get around to installing it. I had nothing prepared. I didn't have a thumbnail, nothing scheduled, and I was knackered. And you know when you just look at it and go,
got two thumbnails.
Yeah. But you know when you just look at something and go, I don't want to. It's not tonight. It's not tonight.
We did have 3 episodes of the Clickercast go up on public feeds this past Saturday, so I think we'll put them out in bulks of 3 to the general public. Of course, our members out there, they get all that early remastered content available now. They've had it for a couple of weeks, probably, in fact, at this point. But yeah, it's gone public now, so episodes 1, 2, 3 for those casual listeners out there. Review yourself up, ready for season 2, coming in just a matter of weeks now.
Indeed.
So yeah, there has been content, even if it wasn't a live stream.
Yeah, we still don't know the actual date, though, do we? We just know it's April.
April, I think some people suspected around about the 18th or something. It's probably going to be in line with something American, like Super Bowl or
Easter,
I think, which is next week. Easter, yeah, who knows when they want to get it out. But we've got to find out soon. My guess is at the Super Bowl, which I believe is next week or this weekend, there's probably going to be a big advert for it.
To be honest, I reckon we might see like a double launch on Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So you get episodes 1 and 2, and then one episode a week after that.
Potentially. It is a shorter season, though, so maybe they want to spread that cadence out at HBO a little bit more. But we'll find out imminently. It's got to be soon. Got to be soon.
100%.
And we'll be back.
We will be. We have committed to the season 2 of the Clickercast. But, Chris, what have you been playing?
Not much. As you mentioned, I've been really busy this last 2 weeks with the old workplace. So, been out and about, bit of travelling. Keep me busy. I did manage to platinum in your absence last week and Rob stepping in Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings.
I saw that,
PlayStation 2 / PS4 PS5 now. You know what, it took maybe 5 hours to platinum.
Alright,
it's an Indiana Jones story.
And you technically already played it recently as well.
I'd already played a little bit of it recently, but the story doesn't really improve. It's the way it actually gets to the end. You realise when it gets to the kind of the final boss fight and the finale, the story they just stop writing it. It kind of builds up to, there's something to do with like the concept of like, the staff Moses used to part the Red Sea.
That's a cool idea.
It's a pretty epic piece of like mythology / history, however you want to look at it, and like the power in it, and it kind of just, you go to a few locations, typical Indiana Jones Uncharted style, and then there's just a grand finale. It doesn't give you any reason what the staff's power is, the reason behind. Obviously there's a couple of Nazis involved, and there's just it kind of just ends with what could be quite an epic finale. Like the villain does use the staff, spoilers for a game that's like 16 year old, he does use the staff to part the sea, gets on a motorbike, and you have a motorbike chase through the parting of the sea. Which, I know people who question Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Aliens and the Dial of Destiny concept, but Indiana Jones has never been as grounded as I think people give it credit for.
No, I know it's I know it's there, like, even in, like, Raiders, like, the arc was clearly magical. But what I liked about Raiders especially was it could have been explained another way, because you don't see what's in the arc. They open it and the Nazi's faces melt. It could have been a gas, or it could have been something else that
Carbon
wasn't
monoxide poison.
Yeah, that wasn't magic or anything. So I think that's when Indiana Jones is at its best, when like there's seemingly something mystical going on with the artifact, but you don't know for sure. Like when it's in that grey area. But to actually get staff and part to say is like, well, that's fairly on the nose. That's why I didn't like the alien stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, that was platinum number 149. So that means Sly Cooper 2, which I've been behind on. I think once I started Indiana Jones, I was like, I looked at the guide online, and the guide was like, the full playthrough guide was 2.5 hours. So obviously at the slow pace of playing through it and pausing it to check you've got collectibles took me about 5. But yeah, all things said and done, my 150th is on track to be Sly Cooper 2.
Nice.
So, unless something suddenly jumps in between that. But yeah, hopefully a little bit more game time this coming week, and I'll get back to it. How about yourself in between upping sticks and selling bricks?
Metaphor. The game is endless. I haven't actually rolled credits yet.
Is it getting too long in the tooth now? Like, it sounds like you've passed the point of finishing it, and now it's just like, there's just too much.
I think it is a little bit too long in the tooth. I know it's a big game. I do want to actually get the platinum, so I'm going to still be playing for a while. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, I've not been. It's not like I'm sitting there for 4 or 5 hours every night playing at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's, my pacing's slowed as well. But it just is such a long game. It's like at the moment, like I've stopped on side quests and most cutscenes outside the main story. I've stopped reading and paying attention. Right. I'm just clicking through, getting the quest done, just to save myself some time. But I do actually have to do at least a good chunk of a New Game Plus run for the platinum.
Right, okay.
Because there is one boss that is locked to New Game Plus, and I'm not sure there's a trophy for completing all side quests. But one of them is presented. One side quest is actually presented as in the middle of a main mission as an optional. Do you go this way or that way?
Right. Okay.
I didn't realise that you have to do them both to get that trophy. So I'm hoping on my New Game Plus playthrough, I'm going to do both of them, and then the trophy pops. If not, I'm pretty much going to have to get back to endgame in order to get that trophy. Right. I'm hoping like the quest, the side for the trophy, it carries over, and it's not has to be all in a single playthrough.
So you're going to have to be quite tactical about this one.
The New Game Plus will be a lot quicker because I'll be like over leveled for most of it, and then I can just skip all the dialogue, all the cutscenes, and that will save probably about a good 100 hours.
That's a decent saving.
Yeah, it's like you can.
Your social life will appreciate that.
And then there's like there's a collectible trophy I need to do, which I think I'm about 5 collectibles off it. I'm not sure if I've missed any, and I need to go with a guide and go around every area I possibly can and see if I've missed any obvious ones. But if I have, that does carry forward anyway.
Well, that's good.
So that's not the end of the world. But yeah.
Well, it's certainly value for money by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved the game, but yeah, it's one of them. It is a bit too long. You can make the same argument for Persona 5. Actually, it is a very long game. Atlus make these absolute behemoths of games, so it's. But we're almost there. We're almost there.
Well, speaking of value for money, though, at least, and. Of course, I've been out and about shopping and picking up some deals. And us two and Tom are actually heading to a retro gaming market this coming weekend. We'll probably have a couple of things to talk about on next week's show. I picked up a couple more this week to pad out that retro collection, because we've been playing like a little game, haven't we, almost every week? Yeah. Guess the price almost. So I picked up...
Guess the retro price
this week. The entire Dead Space collection.
Oh, on PS3.
1, 2, and 3. Of course, they are available through other channels, but it's still they're kind of nice. I want them in the collection just to have them, and I know the quality that they're worth. So, what do you reckon for Dead Space 1?
Ooh, Dead Space 1 PS3. PS3 tends to be actually slightly higher price than PS4 at the moment. That's where I think I've went wrong a few times.
What are we thinking?
£6.
£4.
£4.
Dead Space 1. So then by that tactics, what do you think for Dead Space 2?
I'd want to say £4, but I'm guessing it's going to be like £3.87.
£5.
And then £6.
So then for Dead Space 3?
£6.
What are you thinking?
£5. Well, where did these prices come from?
I don't know. I mean, arguably Dead Space 1 is the best of the three. So and yet that's the cheapest. So it's like they clearly don't rate these on like Metacritic or something. It's just kind of like, I guess, in-demand second-hand markets.
They might price it based on their stock levels or something.
Quite possibly. And then finally, I did pick up a little one, which was Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, which I do have Red Dead, and I do have Red Dead Undead Nightmare as part of like a downloadable DLC, but I totally forgot it was a standalone. And this is one of those things where they never did Undead Nightmare DLC for the sequel, which was like massively disappointing because, again, it's such a good game. Like, if you want Halloween vibes in a fantastic game, look no further than Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. What do you think of a cost for that one then? So Rockstar,
it's
Red
a
Dead.
smaller standalone title, but there again, we are talking the low pounds here, so I don't think that matters. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with £4.
Close. £5. Once again, but I thought that was actually like almost a bit of steal because of the Rockstar. I know it's not Grand Theft Auto quite, but
probably the rarity as well.
Yeah, that I've never seen it before. So all standalone. I did check it. It was all standalone on the disc. It didn't require like the original game. I'm not getting caught out Sims DLC style on that one. Yeah, put that in there. So a nice little find there, and I'm sure you'll have to rein me in a little bit when we go to this retro market from just going crazy. Got paid on Friday. Finally, January's over. Let's not go blow at everything.
I keep telling myself I need to be conservative when I go there because, yes, I've just been paid and it's nice, but I do have 2 holidays currently I'm paying for, and we've started booking things for when we go to Paris in May. So there's money coming out the account that I just need to not go nuts.
That typical adult problem of Christmas is out the way now, and you think, finally, I'll be relieved of these outgoings. And then you go, oh, wait, the year ahead is a mere 3-4 months away till we're in summer again.
You look at your calendar and go, all the things you've already kind of getting scheduled for the first few months of the year. It's like, well, that's going to cost that, that's going to cost that, that's going to cost that. I was out drinking last night. With my girlfriend, celebrating our first year anniversary.
Congratulations!
And yes, that cost a fortune. Just going out drinking does now. Yeah, so it's stuff like that. Yeah,
it does. But at least this podcast's free.
It is. This podcast is actually free, but you can, if you wish to, become a member for as little as 99p. But before we talk about that, Chris, would you like to introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news?
The news, and the news, as always, is brought to you by our aforementioned members, which you can join over on the YouTube channel for as little as 99p, which helps us do a lot of cool stuff, helps us keep the channel running, keeps them freeloaders and over the pod who listen to audio only, keeps them being able to listen. And I really appreciate all of your support.
I saw a couple of those freeloaders comment this week, and
over in the Discord, links in the description.
You know who you are out there listening on free podcast audio feeds, driving on your commute to work or on your journey home or whatever you're doing in your downtime. 99p, that's all it is. But in all honesty, the best thing you could do on free feeds is leave a comment or review, I think, on podcast services. I don't know how the hell the algorithm has helped. But we've started giving them a bit of stick, and it's all in jest, of course. It's all in jest.
Yeah.
But seriously, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, 99p, come on, guys.
Jokes.
You find that behind you, down the couch cushions.
Oh. Actually, I don't know anymore. Does anyone have cash to lose down the back of the couch cushions?
No, even if you do have cash, do you ever sit down on your couch with a pocket full of change?
No. We've all had that. I mean, a lot of our audience will remember the days you'd get home at your parents' house, you've been out drinking all night, You've been buying rounds and drinks and whatever, and then you pay for your taxi, you get home, and you're trying to be quite quiet.
Yeah.
You take your jeans off and you tip them,
genuinely.
and every single coin just scatters on the deck, making an absolute racket, and you think, oh,
Back
I'm
in the
trying to be
days where
quiet.
you'd actually go out drinking on cash because 30 quid could get you for a good night's drinking, a pizza and a taxi home.
Yeah. Oh, them were the
You
days.
used to go to the
Them
bar
were the days.
with a fiver and end up with just a handful of coins back. Them were the days.
Crazy times.
But Chris, we're talking about the days now, and we're going to start off the news by letting you know about Xbox's first-party racing game, Forza 5, is now coming to PlayStation. They're doubling down on this.
I mean, we've known it for quite some time, haven't we? It was rumoured or something a while ago that this was the next one in the bag, and I think the rumour went on to say that they're holding it back. Xbox are holding it back, and with the cadence of recent releases, it makes sense that they don't want to kind of, for lack of a better term, blow their load in one go. They want to stagger these things because Game Pass's lineup for the next couple of months is fantastic. So why would you want to put... I know there's rumours as well around like the Master Chief Collection and the Gears of War collections, and Xbox want to be careful that they don't just like put everything out in one go and then sit back and go, ah shit, we got nothing left now.
Yeah.
Like if they want to have a good year with their brand new titles spread out, but also get this in there. But Forza Horizon 5 is arguably the best version the game's ever seen. And I think at the moment on PlayStation, that kind of arcade open world fun is lacking. Like, we don't get a Gran Turismo arcade game. Need for Speed has been poor for a couple of iterations now. Meanwhile, Forza was over there getting some journalists and sites gave it Game of the Year a few years back.
They did.
So we've played it on the channel. What are your thoughts on this inevitable port coming this spring?
I think it's a good move. I think Forza Horizon, it makes more sense of Forza Motorsport because of Gran Turismo. So, and I think you are right in there. They should be staggering out the release of this stuff. It's because I think it's one of them things where, okay, they've announced the moving stuff over at PlayStation, that's happening. If they dropped it all in one go, I think it takes a bit of the wind out of the sails almost, because then suddenly everything's there. It's like, oh cool, everything's there. Where this, doing it like this, game by game, makes it more of an event thing. It keeps it in the news. So we're talking about Forza now, specifically one game, rather than Xbox's library in general. Yeah. And then next time, let's say, like, bring out Doom the Dark Ages. Let's say that's a dual release. Now we're talking about that coming to PlayStation as well. So you get that constant news cycle a bit more. But to be honest, what I found hilarious, and if you are one of the naysayers about this, like, you know, the trolls on Twitter who think like the end is nigh for Xbox because they're doing this. Incidentally, the port has been done by Panic Button, which I just found funny.
It's very on the nose, or on the button, I guess, with it. But yeah, this version, they quoted in the press release saying the port being done is in collaboration with the main developer Playground Games, which we know are working on the Fable reboot right now. So the team's obviously on major projects. There's no new trailer's been released to coincide with it, so they're kind of keeping it under the radar at the same time. They didn't even put a date on it; they just kind of put it out for wish listing on PlayStation and
it's rumored to be spring.
Yeah. We're excited to see Forza Horizon 5 community grow with new players on PlayStation 5, and we can't wait to see the creativity and skill these new creators, builders and racers will bring to our vibrant community. Crossplay will be enabled across PS5, Xbox and PC, and new content update named Horizon Realms will also be coming to the PS5 version. So it looks like they're attempting to give a little injection boost to the current players on other platforms, which I think is a smart move. You're open up to new people, and then crossplay just lets them all link up together. Yeah. So if you've got friends who do have it on Xbox, what a way to kind of bring them back into the fold and go, guys, like, I've got it now. Yeah,
so it's like the base version of the game is going to be there. All the DLC will be purchasable separately, as you kind of expect it would be. I've got a feeling we'll get the date with Horizon Realms. I think that will be when they'll do a dual launch. I'm guessing Horizon Realms is going to be the next DLC for Forza 5. So
yeah, they've said Realms will give players a chance to explore a curated collection of some of the community's favourite previously released evolving worlds alongside some of the surprises. So this sounds like it's almost like map creator mode released into Forza. And I know when we played it, we just kind of raced around a little bit. We didn't really do anything in depth. But in the lack of a Forza Horizon 6 because of the Fable work, and I'm not too sure how big that studio is. Obviously, Motorsport is done by a different studio, 1010, so they won't be. I doubt they'll be working. They usually stick to the simulation one. But yeah, in amongst the year when we've now had Hi-Fi Rush, we had Grounded port over, we've had Sea of Thieves, which both did immensely well. Pentiment, which came out, as you mentioned. Doom the Dark Ages coming later on this year. It's a multi-platform release. We had The Outer Worlds 2 confirmed at the Developer Direct a week or so ago. Barring Halo and Gears, we're almost seeing like Forza is an Xbox pillar. It's been there since the beginning, and it's always well received. It's always well good. If you look back at every Forza game, there's not one of them has been reviewed badly since inception. So this is I think a big win for both parties, quite frankly.
Yeah, I think it's one of them with Forza, because they've stumbled onto something that makes the games feel really, really good to play. People love them. So they don't mess with the formula too much. They update things, they tweak things, new. If each iteration they bring out new maps, new cars, all that kind of stuff. But the kind of heart and soul of what their games are is just remain fairly consistent. And I think that will continue. I wonder if we will get a Forza 6 at some point. If they just keep bringing out DLC, do they need one? I'd say probably yes eventually, but.
Yeah, I think if 5 wasn't numbered, if this was just Forza Horizon or Forza Horizon Worlds or whatever they want to label it, I think the number 5 doesn't like. They went Halo Infinite for a reason, right? Because I thought that was going to be the last big, like, not hurrah, but like it was almost like a resetting point, and it kind of just shit the bed and didn't work. Gears E-Day, again, it's not a numbered entry, it's a prequel, so there's always something in a naming convention, but. I think Forza, I think we'll definitely see another one. Obviously, the length it takes to develop these games now, they need more time, so you're not going to get them at that bi-yearly cadence that you would. I mean, look at Gran Turismo. They take, like, you pretty much get one a generation now. So, I think I wouldn't be surprised.
I think that's not a bad cadence for games like this, where you get, ideally, for me, if I'm Playground and I'm making this game, I'm going, right, I want the game to come out very early in the console's lifespan, and we'll support it for the entire one, and then the sequel will be on the next console. Because
if you can get a racing game in a launch window, that's almost like perfect timing.
Within the first 12 months, it doesn't have to be like within the first few weeks. It doesn't have to be day one. But if you get out in the first few months, then go right. We are going to support for the next 5 to 10 years. Just bringing out new DLC packs. Build on it. Constantly patching it, updating it, bring out new features, whatever it is. I think in general, as kind of games as a servicey kind of stuff, that is almost like becoming like where I think you look at it and go, it makes sense. It's like look at Nintendo with like things like Mario Kart. I know the most Mario Kart 8 was a Wii U that got ported to Switch, but the Wii U had a very short lifespan because it flopped. But the game was fine. But other than that, they pretty much have a one Mario Kart per generation.
So apparently we're a big enough show for sponsorship now, guys, so check out this ad.
I'm Connor.
And I'm Jeremy.
We're comedians. And what's worse, we're comedians who love to talk about video games. Yikes! We host a podcast called Super NPC Games Club.
On this book club-style series, we discuss games like Super Mario 64, Mass Effect, and Pokemon Yellow, covering them chapter by chapter to ensure that no line of goofy dialogue or moment of developer perversion gets missed. I'm looking at you, Sonic Adventure.
If you've been dying to hear piping hot takes about the little hat Mr. X wears in Resident Evil 2, then this is the podcast for you.
So check out the Super NPC Games Club anywhere podcasts can be found, and empty your belly because it's about to be full of laughs.
Yeah, absolutely. And just look at like the diminishing returns you get. Car games or racing games, of like, I guess seeing the diminishing returns impact them the most because the fidelity, it always looks great and it's always used to showcase like the best of the new hardware. But as someone who used to really enjoy them, and we've always said, I think a lot of people grow out of racing games as they naturally can drive in real life. The kind of the shine, for lack of a better term, is almost polished out of it. When I look at Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, and Forza, they've looked gorgeous for
Oh,
a
God,
good
yeah,
decade
yeah.
plus now, and it is that point of like, why would you spend 200 million developing the next game when you could just get new vehicles, new cars, new maps, new locations, and keep it going? Because ultimately, like, all you're doing at the end of the day is racing. It's not like Call of Duty stuff where you can reinvigorate, capture the flag mode and deathmatch, and you can tweak it up a little bit, and we get prop hunt. It's a race. You race various numbers of competitors. The tracks vary, but ultimately it is a 2D plane that you drive around in some kind of circuit with a start and a finish line. So that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can't really change the core dynamics of it that much, version to version. So that between the actual just basis of a racing game and the diminishing returns on graphics, I think a longer development cycle and a longer release cadence is this is arguably the genre that would benefit from it the most.
I think the killer for these games is the feel to play. It has to feel great, which it makes sense because it's the same with like shooters. If you play a shooter and it doesn't feel good to play, they go, if the game could be objectively in every other way amazing, but if the gun combat doesn't feel good, it feels like a crap game. Racing, I think, falls into the same trap. If it doesn't feel good when you got your hands on the sticks to play, you're in for a difficult time. And so I think that's where they'll probably really nail the focus heavily on that, making sure it feels really great to play. And also just doing things like making sure it is beautiful to play as well.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
interestingly, do you think we could get some potential PS5 exclusive features in this with the DualSense? With things like adaptive trigger support?
I mean, if they're doing an entire port, it makes sense that you utilise it. And in a way, it's a good way of Xbox Studios testing the water for what inevitably the new Xbox controller is going to look like. They would be naive and foolish to launch the next hardware list without the new Xbox controller trying to at least mirror some of the features of the DualSense, because everyone's said the DualSense it changed the game so much when in terms of just haptic feedback and the triggers. And I know not every game utilizes them massively, but just the way like something like Astrobot dynamically showcases that controller, they can't launch a new one and go, it's just another batteries and vibrations.
I think it's one of the problems you get with console exclusive features on your controller is if it's a cross-platform game, there's very little incentive for a third-party developer to utilise them, because if they utilise it for PlayStation, then they have to code it slightly different to where it's working on Xbox. But if Xbox start mimicking the features, and as you said, this could be a good test bed for them to actually start trying out this. How would it work in our games? Using PlayStation, because they've already got the tech there to go while they're working on the next generation of Xbox controller.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of the hidden message of all this, of like porting games over to other platforms. It's a weird way that Xbox are now getting a sneak peek into the world of PlayStation more so than they ever have. Like when they're developing like mega hit titles like Black Ops 6 and stuff for it, like Xbox now have people literally on the inside of PlayStation now releasing full games and ports. It's no longer like smoke and mirrors. They don't know what the competition's doing. They're literally working in tandem with the competition. And that brings us on to like kind of a little segue of this story this week, of course, Richie, that Xbox was December's biggest publisher and 64% of its sales were on PS5 and PS4. So Xbox has sold more on PlayStation than it has on its own platform. Which, Richie, I guess is no surprise. They've been putting games out. Like, again, Black Ops 6 will have been the biggest part of it. But Indiana Jones obviously helped Xbox over the Christmas period because it received very good ratings, and presumably it's sold well across the platforms. And even though it's not out on PlayStation yet, they said it was even ahead of EA over December, which raked in a measly 366 million themselves. But we knew this. I guess when you own half the industry because you've bought them up, then no surprise that you sell more than half the sales, right?
Well,
and
I kind of find the stories on this a bit misleading because it's like, Xbox is the biggest publisher even on PlayStation, but realistically, it's not Xbox. It was Call of Duty, which is something they've recently purchased. If you take Call of Duty out of it, then this story doesn't exist. So they've purchased this position in the market.
Yeah, well, they said revenue for gaming was up, but hardware was down. It's like, so they're selling less of their own stuff, but collectively, again, if you take on Activision Blizzard King, and as part of that acquisition, you own the biggest money-making machine year in, year out in games.
Yeah.
Your gaming revenue should be up year on year, unless you've done something drastically crazy that's just ruined it. And Black Ops 6 just happens to be like a really high point for the Call of Duty franchise as well.
So if I was
it's done well.
Finance guy at Xbox, I'd be wanting to look at the trends with Black Ops 6 taken out of the data set, because it's such a huge outlier that it's going to massively skew the data. And it's going, oh yeah, it's the best year we've ever had. Well, it doesn't really mean much because of Black Ops 6. It's like, is it because of one game, or are you overall doing better? And
it's definitely one of those.
Yeah, and hardware sales as well. They're just slow as the generation goes on anyway. That's just normal. Like,
yeah, it's one of those where I think you make statistics that look good. Obviously, when they go to shareholders and stuff, they're going to sing praises when it's up year on year. But yeah, the people who aren't in the boardroom, I guess, like gamers know, it's like, well, yeah, if you buy the most expensive revenue maker, then you're going to have revenue up year on year, I would hope. Anyway, not counting in for the $76 billion you spent to acquire them, that's a big net loss. But it's one, and it's something I guess we're only going to see more of with all the like Forza Horizon, and other franchises coming across. I'm just waiting for that moment that we start to just get stuff day and date. Like, do you think they're always going to have the cadence of like Indiana Jones, like a 6-month window? Or do you think we are going to start seeing things? Because like some of them, like Doom, is obviously day and date. Outer Worlds is day and date, but they have history on those franchises.
Yes.
South of Midnight, not mentioned. So I feel like it might be like Hellblade, not mentioned either. I'm surprised Hellblade hasn't been confirmed yet either, because that fell flat last summer.
Doom's been like day and date on pretty much forever, hasn't it? Across multiple platforms. I don't think.
Well, they haven't had have they had a release since acquisition? When did Eternal come out? Was that like just after the Bethesda acquisition? I
don't know. I feel like it might have been in development.
Because it came to Stadia, right?
Yeah,
so I think that's where, when we were covering it on the podcast, that was a case of like, we were worried that Stadia was going to lose Doom Eternal because of the acquisition.
Yes, you're right.
And then it didn't end up being the case. So I'm guessing this is the first Doom game we've had out since the Bethesda.
This is the first Doom game that Microsoft have full control over, because there's probably, with Eternal, there's a lot of deals probably already in the works that you can't really renege on, so you just have to accept that situation.
So I guess looking at that bigger picture, do we see Starfield later this year as well? Because I feel like that's ripe for the picking for a PlayStation port.
Possibly, because Starfield's now in a lot better place than it was.
Yeah, it's over a year old.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I don't think Xbox and Phil Spencer are wanting to commit to any individual across-the-board strategy. I think they want to take it as a game-by-game basis. If the sales are still going up nicely, why move it over? I think it's when you hit them sales plateaus, that's when you want to shift it. So he's probably got metrics where it goes, if the sales slow to this percentage for this many months, then we'll have a serious talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Phil was doing a couple of interviews this past week, and he pretty much confirmed, like, he wouldn't say, like initially they said when they did that business call back like last January, they said like, these are the 4 games, we can't comment or deny rumours or speculation on other ones. He did a few interviews with like Gamertag Radio, Destin, who's recently left IGN, he's got his own channel now. They obviously asked him what's the history of Xbox titles looking like, and he basically just went on to say like, we want players to experience Xbox titles in any form, different forms, such as cloud, PC, handheld, mobile. And he capped off his statement by confirming Xbox's first-party games will no doubt show up on PlayStation, Nintendo and Steam in the future. So I reckon the other big outlier in this kind of new approach to being the biggest publisher is the Switch 2. Imagine how much money Xbox could make by having a handful of select titles available for Switch at launch.
Yeah.
You telling me Forza, maybe Gears, Halo portable on the Switch? Possibly. That's going to make them millions. And again, we all can run it because we're talking about old-ass games now.
Possibly. We say we know can run it, we still don't know the specs of the Switch 2. And even if the power's there, there's compatibility issues and stuff to factor in. It could be a complicated thing. Nintendo are very used to being siloed into their own thing, and most games that come to their platforms are specific for their platform. Mm-hmm. So porting may not be as straightforward as you'd like it to be. But I think there could be a selection of games, and I think it would be to both the benefit of Microsoft and Nintendo if they got a suite of maybe 5 games on the Switch 2 from the last generation and a half, 2 generations of Xbox titles in the launch window. Because then with the Switch, you're padding out your library, which is sometimes where you kind of need to. You want enough of a library on launch to kind of make it to force that day one purchase.
Yeah.
It's established titles. So Microsoft are going to again double dip into old games to get revenue, to open up revenue streams which are currently closed.
Yeah.
So I think
makes
it'll
sense.
be a win-win. Actually,
I mean, we know
for players, it means there's another place to play great games that you like.
And with crossplay kind of evolving, I mean, Xbox have Grounded, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, and Sea of Thieves, and I would argue and say Grounded and Hi-Fi Rush in particular are very Nintendo games, from a visual standpoint. So, I think Switch having a Forza Horizon game would be fantastic, because outside of Mario Kart, Switch doesn't really have races.
Yeah.
And then I just think, looking back at the library, imagine all those fans who would kill to have Halo Portable.
Yeah.
Be great.
The one thing I don't think we'll see, though, is Game Pass. There's a lot of people talk about Game Pass and Nintendo. I don't see the benefit from Microsoft. I think I can see the benefit of them putting the games in and then go, buy it, and then we'll take a cut. Yeah. But Game Pass, I think, is one of the things where if they hold that back and don't put it on any platform other than PC and on Xbox, you're kind of going, all these cool games that you've been spending 50, 60, 70 pounds on this platform, you can get as a monthly subscription over here, day and date. Yeah. So then the Game Pass becomes what drives the sale of the consoles, and then you're using the individual box a la carte sales on other platforms to drive people into the game, to try and encourage people in the Game Pass.
Yeah, I'd agree. But either way, interesting signs for Xbox, and I think the egg is truly cracked in terms of exclusivity. It's a whole new world we live in now. PlayStation are doing PC stuff, Nintendo are doing Nintendo stuff, and Xbox they're not. I mean, to be fair, they're taking a lot stronger approach than Sega did when it started to all fade and collapse for them. They're making money. Yeah, and they've had to be, because that's what you have to do when you're in last place. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, last place is not at the moment is not a bad position to be, because they're still making a lot of money. But are they realistically? How do they realistically catch up with Nintendo and PlayStation in the hardware sales?
Yeah.
I think they're going to struggle, because there's a cultural element to it as well, cracking the Far East.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? Well, you don't compete on the hardware, you compete on the software, and you outcompete them. Then you've got the Xbox as a kind of isn't selling. The Xbox is not the focus anymore, it's selling the video games.
Yeah, it's one of the oldest adages in the book, Richie. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. Turn what is currently a losing situation into a winning one. Yeah. But I think, Chris, moving on to PlayStation, and February, we have our PlayStation Plus claimable games for this month. Interestingly, where do you want to start? Because there's a secondary story in this about PlayStation and what they're doing with the subscription model.
I think get the games out of the way and we'll get into the realistically interesting part. What are we getting?
So we're starting with Payday 3. We're getting High on Life.
Are we?
We are. And Pac-Man World Repack. I don't think it's a bad month. I don't think it's a great month either.
It's not. Payday 3 is just more Payday. It performed poorly, it reviewed averagely, and I don't think anyone was really asking for a Payday 3, quite frankly. But we got it. It's out now. It's your typical high-octane co-op first-person shooter, up to 4 players online. It wasn't too dissimilar, I think, from the way they tried to repackage Payday 3. It looked a lot closer to Rainbow Six Siege, but with a heist element. We're probably going to see a similar thing from Fair Games when PlayStation finally get around to that. But yeah, I've never really had an interest in Payday 3 and Payday franchise, I should say.
Yeah, me either, to be honest.
High on Life, however, brilliant little game, of course, came to Game Pass 2 years ago now over the Christmas period. Really enjoyed it. The humour in it in particular, it's just that if you've ever seen Rick and Morty, it's that Justin Roiland type of humour, but the gun is alive if you've not somehow seen High on Life. First-person shooter in like a cartoony environment in alien planets.
We have a live stream on the channel.
We do, yeah, and it is super fun, the game. Like, if you enjoy that type of comedy, you'll laugh all the way through this. I think one of the highlights I remember is there's a kid who like threatens you or something, and if you kill him, there's like a really good comedy script that's like typical Rick and Morty. But yeah, if you're into that kind of charismatic, back and forth, just witty banter kind of stuff, it's really good. It's not too long either. I think you can finish it in about 15 hours.
I enjoyed it, but I don't mind that style of humour. I felt though in the video game environment it was a bit much for that length of game. Because it doesn't really take a break from that humour. I found it started getting a bit grating after a couple of hours.
Yeah, I can see that. that. Yeah, without that natural break, like episodic format. Yeah. There's only so many times you can have your gun say back, like, hey, you shot him. Oh my God, you shot him. Guys, oh, he's dead. Oh, you shot him again. Like, it's that.
Yeah.
That's pretty
funny,
much on
It's
repeat.
funny at first, but like it'd be like binge watching the entirety of Rick and Morty. Is like, you probably want to space that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. And Pac-Man World Repack is the remake of the 2004 original PlayStation platformer where Pac-Man tried to get out of that 2D landscape. It's a 3D game from a bygone PlayStation era, and if you're into your 3D puzzle platforming, think like Spyro and stuff and Mario 64, then it's one of those that it won't hurt you, and you'll probably have a fun collectible time. It might, but it's one of three games.
It's one where I think you could, if you don't expect too much of it, you probably have a good time.
Yeah. But I guess the bigger news from this blog post, Richie, was we have an update on the future of PlayStation Plus, which happens rarely, it feels.
Yeah, indeed. So PlayStation is ditching PS5 games beginning in 2026 from the subscription model.
PS4.
In the notes it's PS5. That changes the entire tone of the article, to be honest. So they're ditching PS4 games to focus on the PS5 titles, which, to be honest, that is actually, I think it's a good move, really, because
it makes sense, right?
Yeah, by now PS4 titles, we're halfway through the lifespan potentially of PS5. PS4 titles are still there. There's a lot of them on PS Plus if you have premium or extra, but having them as the monthly claimable games, I think that's one of the things that is starting to make the months feel a bit lackluster.
Yeah, well, this is where like the lines are a little bit blurred. Like they do say it's not going to start until January 2026. You've got just under a year until this actually happens. As they do say in the blog, as we shift from to PS5, PS4 games will no longer be available as a key benefit. Realistically, most of the PS4 games you get play and run better on PS5, or they have a PS5 version now anyway. Like you often see in the blog, it says PS4/5, and when you go to download it, it asks you which version you'd like to download. And this is where like the cross generations, the lines are so blurred now. I think the biggest thing is just they're running out of PS4 titles to add. Like we see it with Game Pass. Like at what point when you're adding 3, 4, 5 games a month, have you? And especially with the rolling library that they have in the catalog that also gets additional games, it does just feel like they're not the pool's not finite. Like at some point, you need to like hone it in on like what's relevant and what's current, because nobody wants like shitty old games.
So the one thing I think is key to actually focus on here, which is actually I kind of slightly misspoke, because as I'll just read directly from the blog. As many of our players are currently playing on PS5, we've shifted towards redeeming and accessing PS5 titles from the monthly games and game catalog benefits. PlayStation Plus is evolving with this trend, and we will focus on offering PS5 titles through the monthly and game catalog benefits starting January 2026. As we shift to PS5, PS4 games will no longer be a key benefit and will only be occasionally offered for PS Plus monthly games and catalog starting January 26. That to me reads as if they're pulling PS4 titles from the catalog, from their PS Plus catalog.
In what way? The monthly like streamable ones and stuff.
The monthly, no, not the monthly ones, because it does actually say, please note this won't affect PS4 monthly games that you've already redeemed. Mm-hmm. But if it's when you've got the extended catalogue from PlayStation Plus above the basic tier, PS4 games I think are getting pulled from that.
I mean, possibly. Does it all go back to just licensing again? Like, PlayStation will pay these teams fees, and I'd imagine maybe having duplicates, like PS4 and PS5 versions, and the studios at some point will turn around to PlayStation and go, look, our 6-year contract with PlayStation Plus catalogue is ending. Do you want to renew? Insert random PS4 game that 10 people played in the last 5 years. And PlayStation go, not really. Not really.
Yeah,
because it's all a sunk cost, right? Like you're telling me, Pac-Man, Pac-World Repack, the PS4 version, someone's like, it's in Sony's best interest to renew that contract in 5 years' time and keep it on the catalogue.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. It just feels like that's actually a huge thing. They're just wiping away from your catalogue, and this seemingly would include Sony-owned titles. So
we've seen them do it before. Remember they pulled, was it The Last of Us before the remaster came out? Or Horizon before one of them? I know they did something in the past where they took out one of the, it might have been God of War actually. One exclusive, they took it out ahead of like the sequel or the remaster launch. I'll put the price up to full again. And it was like, hang on a minute.
That never goes down well. Mm-hmm. You always get bad press, which I think this is why they're telling us this now, a year in advance.
Yeah.
To take the hit, deal with the bad press.
Yeah.
And then
there's something in there,
year.
But we'll have to wait, I think, until January next year to find out truly what it looks like. I think it probably is just down to contracts. You see it with like Netflix and stuff all the time, where like movies and series drop off and then they come back. And
if I'm reading this right, I think it actually massively devalues the PlayStation Plus. If you're to remove the PS4 titles from that library, what are you left with? Really,
PS5 titles,
but there isn't that many really.
But there might be in another year's time. Like, again, they know the metrics of who's playing them and if it's worthwhile renewing. Maybe we'll get some more PSVR 2 titles involved.
I actually think this is probably cost saving, linked with how the rough patch they're going through with the game focus on games as service, cancelling games left, right, and centre. I think this is a cost saving measure to potentially actually drive the sales of PS4 games.
Potentially. Or even just push people towards PS5. It's like it's like you at some point they need to leave the last generation behind, and this is the slowest generation to do so. I think they said at the last reporting thing they still have like 60 plus million active PS4 users.
Yeah, because they haven't got the PS5 titles out to make to want people.
Exactly. It's like a catch-22 problem they're stuck in.
There's only a handful of first party Sony PS5 only titles.
Few. Very few.
It's not many. So because they've made, I think, bad strategic decisions in terms of what their content library, and now they're suffering from it. So it does make. I do feel like come January that PS Plus library is going to look quite bare bones.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it's also kind of a step away from the kind of pseudo Game Pass model, which when they revamped it last time, they seemed like they're taking half a step towards that. I wonder if they decide to change tack and go a different direction. Maybe try and get back closer to having only the monthly claimable games.
I mean, I think, they obviously altered to combat in some way with Game Pass, and then I think because Game Pass hasn't really seen the growth Microsoft and possibly Sony expected, it's like, well, we adapted, but in hindsight, we didn't need to, so let's revert back to what worked before, was just 3 claimable games a month. That's it. Yeah. But, you know what, I don't like to see Sony taking things away from us, Richie, but that's not the only thing.
It's true.
Took away.
They are getting rid of the anniversary. Oh. Well, specifically the themes, but they will return.
Why do they do this?
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know.
For those who don't know, the 30th anniversary, you booted up your PS5 and it opened it with the fantastic PlayStation logo, the old school coloured one. And then you could go into the settings and change it so you had PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, start up themes and sound effects when you move through the icons. Doot, 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 all those fantastic little noises. And then they did say it was for a limited time, but it still pains me, Richie, that they make stupid decisions like this where it's like, but you can't keep them. It's like, what harm does me having it on my PS5 in my house do to the business of PlayStation? Like, come on, guys, come on. But they do say it'll be back.
Yeah,
but I shouldn't have to wait.
Because they're saying it will be back, I'm going to try and take the optimistic slant on this. I think maybe they'll come back with the addition of themes in general, because themes in general did quite well on PS4, but then it's been missing from PS5, and it seems like an odd thing to just drop. And I wonder if they were testing the water with this, saw a positive response, but now they need to find a better way to integrate it.
Ah, Richie, my sweet summer child. The subtweet to their initial tweet says, while there aren't plans to create additional themes in the future, we're excited to keep celebrating the legacy of PlayStation hardware with you all. So
why take it away? Then my point of like taking it away was kind of to take it away so they can bring it back in a way it's better integrated, because at the moment it's kind of crappy. You have to go through several menus to find the bloody thing.
Yeah,
it's not intuitive.
It's even the notice, like the post they put out just says, thank you for the fantastic response to the classic PlayStation, PS2, PS3 and PS4 limited time console themes, which will be leaving tomorrow, less than 24 hours notice. Due to the positive response of these 4 themes, we're doing some work behind the scenes to bring the special designs back in the months ahead. How about you just don't take them off us? Like, is it crazy that I turned on my PS5 for the next time and it's all just gone?
I don't understand.
Just leave it. Leave it.
And if you want to do some work behind the scenes because you want to integrate it better, just leave it alone until you're ready to go. This is the Xbox app situation again, what I'd never fully understood. The sunset of the Game Pass app to incorporate it into the normal Xbox app, but then didn't bring all the features across. So now you have a half-baked, clunky solution. Why not just wait till you're ready to go? Like, I don't get it. It's not, because this isn't a cost thing. It's not driving money for PlayStation. It's a nice to have. Start with. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's not going to be free going forward.
I mean, I'd still probably buy them. But it's just a shame.
I wouldn't on principle. If it's something that I've had, they've taken away and now you can have it back, but you have to pay. It's like, fuck that.
Imagine if it'll be back for the 35th. It's like just 4 more years then, 4 and a bit more years. This is what we'll lose out on, Richie.
It's good.
It's a good one, yeah. That was a short one. Keep that for you again, yeah. That's a trophy. Ooh. There's definitely a quiz in here of like which ones are which.
I'm sure there's the ones I don't recognise very well. Probably PS3.
What do you think this one is then?
That's PS3 or Vita?
No, close.
Portal?
PSP. PSP.
Portal. Yeah.
Lots of them. Little beeps. There's such like tactical sound effects though. Like someone designs them and they're absolute geniuses who come up with those sounds. They're so like nostalgic and stuff.
They're so iconic, aren't they?
Absolutely. But we'll obviously see them back soon enough, but it's just weird business decisions. Like they were so well received.
I don't understand why. If anything, she just turn around and go, yeah, we're making them permanent.
Yeah, whatever they've got behind the scenes, it's like, oh, this will be scheduled to end on this day. Just get whoever's in charge of it to go on and go cancel scheduled removal. Like, either way. But they've gone already. At the time of listening, they've gone. So if you haven't booted up your PS5 this past week, like me for the most part, it's gone, and I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye.
Yeah, I did. It was Friday that I went. So Friday last week. But you know what? Who else has gone, Chris? Herman Hulst is no longer co-CEO of PlayStation, but he's still in charge of first party.
Maybe Herman's role was due to end, and unfortunately they had to work behind the scenes to extend his tenure in that particular role, but someone couldn't do it, so they're working behind the scenes to bring him back on the 35th anniversary. You'll have to wait and see.
It's a weird one, to be honest. I wonder if this is a case of the idea to split the job between two people just wasn't quite working.
Yeah, because this happened in the So in the aftermath, not the aftermath, I guess, in the wake of Jim Ryan stepping down last year, they went, well, we're going to do something a little bit different. And it kind of seemed to make sense because the two individuals, obviously Herman Hulse, previously the head of Guerrilla Studios, who did Killzone, then onto the Horizon franchise. Really nice, light guy within the gaming and PlayStation community. He stepped up to help alongside, we presume it was the business group, because the bigwig was Hideki Nishino, who's more business-centric. And it made sense, you're going to have someone who's going to deal with business and someone's going to deal with just the gaming element. And each individuals feel like they knew their own part to play very, very well. But I think you're right in saying, having two CEOs approaching...
It confuses things.
How do you make a decision if one has one idea and one disagrees?
Well, that's it. Ultimately, you have to kind of...
You've got to draw the line.
It's a hierarchy. The further you go up, the less people you need. And sometimes it must be confusing for certain managers going, here's the thing I need to talk to the CEO about. Which one? Yeah. And then if you talk to Herman and don't talk to... What's his name?
Hideki Nishino.
Hideki is then they're getting only half the information, and I can imagine it getting messy in the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
So this could actually be possibly even Herman's idea, if it's because he's in charge of first party and developing Sony's first party repertoire.
Yeah, he's arguably doing the same thing he's been doing. The reason he was co-CEO is to deal with the game side of things, and now I guess he gets to focus that on that's the game side of things.
Maybe he feels like he's getting pulled away from the job he should be doing because he's dealing with CEO bullshit. So let the business guy take over the CEO and effectively running the company, and he's still probably going to be in the board meetings.
Absolutely, and we should make it clear he's not stepping down.
No.
It's just a case of he's moved into a different role.
He's not even really moved into a different role. He's had part of his role moved into a different person. So Hideki is now full CEO, and I think it's just it's that clarity. I think in that leadership structure now.
Yeah, we should just read, I guess, directly from it. So Hideki Nishino is going to take sole CEO control of Sony Interactive Entertainment. So that's the business subsidiary which contains PlayStation. So this guy is also going to oversee, obviously, the music element of it, the TV movie side of things as well. So this is why I think it made sense initially. And then it says in the press release, I'm truly honoured to take helm of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Nishino said in the press release, technology and creativity are two of our biggest strengths as we continue to focus on developing experiences that deliver entertainment for everyone. We'll continue to grow the PlayStation community in new ways, such as intellectual expansion, while also delivering the best in technology innovation. I want to thank Herman for his expertise and leadership as he continues in his role as CEO, Studio Business Group. I'm deeply grateful for the PlayStation community and their continued support, and I'm very excited for what the future holds. So I think it's the move that probably makes the most sense. I think Herman, from when I've seen him in interviews, I think you're right in saying the CEO role maybe wasn't in his... Just his personality didn't seem to clash with being the big boss who makes these horrible decisions to do with layoffs and everything like that.
In some ways, he is still the big boss of the Sony first party software. He's just not looking after the entire PlayStation brand as well. Yeah.
As a slight aside as well, because me and Rob actually didn't cover it on last week's show. Funnily enough, when you're talking about multiple ownerships and stuff, the head of Insomniac left and is retired after 30 years, Ted Price.
Okay.
And it leans in with our conversation. So he's actually said he's made the decision earlier this year. Over 30 years of leading Insomniac, he felt it was simply time to step aside and let others pave the way for our team. He was there when it was founded in 1994, and he's since gone on to create multiple hit games, including Ratchet & Clank, Resistance, Sunset Overdrive, and more recently, of course, Spider-Man, and then going on to the Wolverine game. They've decided to split the leadership of Insomniac over 3 people. There's a guy called Chad Dezen, Ryan Schneider, and Jen Huang who are coming in, and they're all basically in different places. One's from the profit and marketing team, one's an actual game developer, and I think one's finance and marketing. But just interesting, as a total polar opposite of what we've just said couldn't work, they've gone with a 3-pronged approach. But I guess 3 is better than 2, because then you're going to have a majority when it comes to decisions. Yeah. But I just want to touch on that a little bit and shout out to Ted Price. I think in a quiet way, he's had 30 years leading a hugely successful company. Actually, didn't you mention there, Spyro's Insomniac, right? So Spyro, then Ratchet and Clank.
Possibly, yeah. Maybe they didn't mention Spyro because it's currently with Xbox.
Well,
And
yeah,
they
it
didn't
was-
you don't want to mention too many things. It's,
Yeah, well, I think Spyro and Crash were part of that. Universal took over them to publish games, and then Vivendi took over them, which were then part of Activision, and that's how Xbox ended up with them in some roundabout ways. But yeah, to do Spyro, Ratchet, the Resistance franchise, and then Spider-Man, like, this guy's been at the helm of arguably probably one of the most like calm, persistent studios in gaming history. Like, they've not really put out bad titles throughout
You're reading
generations.
from The Verge. Other articles
I am, yes, yeah.
do mention Spyro.
It is Spyro, yeah.
So it's just
it
an
was.
editorial decision.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so just shout out to Ted Price, and obviously Insomniac will go ahead with hopefully good leadership. But yeah, three-pronged approach. So my biggest thing with this difference of roles is, do they get the same wage? Do you get, like, is this just a cost-cutting measure as well? Like 3 people doing one person's job, or 2 people? You know, like, just thinking about the money. How do you negotiate your wage if there's 3 years now?
I don't know. To be honest, when you're at the CEO level, I'm guessing they've had conversations about it and how each of their roles interplays and how they're going to make decisions before they've announced anything. It's not like you just go, oh, you and you, now CEO, figure it out. They've been having conversations for a year.
Absolutely. And it's definitely a damn sight more than we'll probably ever have.
True, yeah.
But
technically, we are co-CEOs.
We are technically. But people like to have money, Richie, and it's nice when people are paid. Unlike when Square Enix don't pay People Can Fly.
Yeah, but Xbox probably maybe will.
I hope they do.
So this is the news that People Can Fly are officially working on Gears of War E-Day in partner with the Coalition and Xbox more generally.
Yeah, and obviously I jest there, but yeah, for those who can't remember, People Can Fly are the studio that worked on Outriders in partnership with Square Enix, and I think we've covered it for the last 2 and a bit years, that even though the game was successful and it did really well on Game Pass and its numbers were well into the millions, they still didn't have any payout from their publishing partner Square Enix, which seemed odd, really, because the game was received well, it surprisingly sold well, and yet every article we've read, it's like, no, we've still not had the money from Square Enix, so we're still going through litigations with Square Enix about
I feel like
getting paid.
there's been a contract where they've signed a bad contract where they have to get over a certain threshold of profit before they start earning. It might be a case of, okay, 100% of the profit is to Square Enix until they've recuperated 80% of the costs. Then we'll go 50-50 from there, something daft, like that kind of structured deal. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Outriders, it didn't do well on launch. It did fall flat on its face, and it had multiple issues across multiple platforms. So while it was a bit of messy, it looked like a games as a service, but they were adamant that it wasn't. But then it had kind of games as a service mechanics in it. I think everything around that game just got a bit messy, and they lost control of the narrative of what it is. And
absolutely,
the consequence was people didn't buy it.
Yep, and more shockingly, 2021 that was, Richie.
Yep.
That was a lot of years ago, actually. It doesn't feel like yesterday. But yeah, the reason for this article, obviously, they're thrilled to be working, no surprise, on Gears of War E-Day, which is the next mainline entry in the renowned Gears of War series, and they're co-developing it in partnership with the Coalition. Obviously, we know about E-Day. It was shown at last summer's showcase. The game looked great. Everyone's super hyped for it. No surprise, though, because People Can Fly worked on the spin-off title Gears of War Judgment back in 2013, so this studio has fully hands-on experience at making a well-received Gears of War game. So it may look as though they've been brought on as a support studio in this particular guise, but I guess for People Can Fly, it's more of like, it's work, it's a contract, it's with a reliable studio, we're probably going to pay you. But I think it's more of like a homecoming. Like, if you look at the list of games outside of Outriders, like Bulletstorm was received averagely, Painkiller. The studio's only, it's like 20-odd-year-old, so it's not like young by any standards, but
2002.
They've not really had their breakout, and I think Gears Judgment's probably the highest they've reached in terms of a single entry. Yeah. So, bring them onto Gears, and maybe the Coalition Xbox are thinking, like, look, if they do a good job supporting with E-Day, and we want to still grow the Gears franchise, I could see People Can Fly's next game after this support line being a spin-off of Gears again in some way.
Yeah, so I think this is one of them situations where obviously Outriders didn't go well for them financially. So in order to keep the studio, because they are an independent studio, to keep things running, getting some steady work as a support studio on another company's game, that could help keep the lights on while you're developing your own thing. Yeah. It's not a bad strategy, really. It's like, just go, we're going to contract out to support Gears of War. It's probably a steady income coming in for that work. Keeps the accountants happy, and now you can go develop whatever the next thing they're working on. It seems like a win-win.
Yeah,
and again, they've got the history of the franchise. They've been involved since Gears 1.
Certainly. So keep it going, but a good story. Like, I don't mind. I don't think they've done phenomenal stuff, but I liked what I've played of Outriders, and I think they're a studio that just deserves some money, quite frankly, at some point, because they must be getting close to the line.
They've done well to keep going and not have to like close the studio or lay off a ton of staff, unlike Ubisoft, who are laying off staff and closing several smaller support studios. 185 staff are reportedly affected.
Yeah.
You don't like to see it, Chris. Like, more layoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we knew it was happening. Ubisoft is such a ballooned company. In a way, it almost like needs to happen because they're seemingly in a super bad place, Ubisoft. And, they're closing Leamington Spa Studio, which is based in the UK. They're going to retain some under remote contracts, so working remotely. Additionally, their offices in Dusseldorf, Stockholm, and Newcastle-based. Ubisoft Reflections will be downsized. So they're not closing them, but downsized pretty much just paints the picture for maybe not this year, but next year we'll close you instead. Reading from their blog, as part of our ongoing efforts to prioritise projects and reduce costs that ensure long-term stability at Ubisoft, we've announced targeted restructurings at Dusseldorf, Stockholm, Reflections, and the permanent closure of the Ubisoft's Leamington site, a Ubisoft spokesman said to Eurogamer. We won't go into the individual studios, but I guess this is what happened. I think they reduced... I think there you go. Ubisoft had reportedly reduced headcount since 2022, when it employed 20,279 people.
That's a lot of people.
By the end of September last year, they employed 18,666. They still have so many people. That's insane. And
to be honest, they haven't been in a good position for the last maybe 5 years, really. They've had some hits. Like Valhalla was a commercial success.
Absolutely.
They've had it, but most of the games have probably fallen short of where they expect. And 20,000 people, it's a lot of wages. But then you got things like Star Wars Outlaws. It was received okay, it sold okay, but it didn't really rock the boat anything. It's just like, here's a cool game. Moving on. It's kind of one, which is what Ubisoft are good at, but I don't think that is... it's not selling enough. They're not selling enough. They've had a handful of attempts to get into games as a service, and every single one of them has failed.
Yeah.
X-Defiant's still alive.
Yeah.
But that's it. Everything else has failed.
Like, just as a quick glance, since 2020, they had Hyperscape.
Yeah.
Must have cost a cool, 150 million, probably, to get that game out, and then it lasted, 2 months, 3 months before it got canned. Yeah. We've got a couple of Random Rabbids things on iOS. Watch Dogs Legion came out in the back end of 2020.
No one cared for it.
Third entry in the franchise, did absolutely nothing.
The
worst entry. Yeah, it was the weakest entry by far. Watch Dogs 2, great game.
Yeah.
1, okay. 3, poor. Then they had Valhalla, that same window, if you remember. Yeah. Valhalla and Legion came out a month apart.
Sold incredibly well, but not the best. I don't know. I don't think it's anyone's favourite Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. We've got Just Dance games in between. Yeah. Rainbow Six Siege updates in between. Immortals Phoenix Rising came out in December.
Great game.
So you had that triple hit of releasing games all in the same quarter.
Great game. It's quite refreshing, even though it did kind of stick quite close to the Assassin's Creed open world format. It had its own charm, but then decided not to go for a second one. Yeah. So I'm guessing it didn't sell as well as was hoped. Yeah. But then again, they put two of their big hitters with Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs, slam on top of it. So
then we had Far Cry 6, which was their only game in 2021. If you remember, that's when we almost felt like we had a drought of like, where are the games? Oh no, sorry, scratch that. Far Cry 6. It was more Far Cry. I think it got lamented for just being more Far Cry, didn't it?
It wasn't bad.
Which
it wasn't.
I enjoyed it, but
I think
you're right, it was more Far Cry.
Well, that was it. It was just everyone went, yep, it's what you expect. If you like Far Cry, there you go.
Yeah. Riders Republic in 2021 as well.
Actually.
Yeah.
Still going, we never really hear about it, though.
No, it's like one of them where it's a good game, but it's like who's going to go back and keep playing it? It just doesn't have that sticking effect.
But you never really hear them about any big content drops or anything. There's very, very rarely any news. It's like we just don't hear about it. That's the problem with that game, is it's still going great, but they're not doing enough, I think, to actually draw people's attention to it. Yeah.
And then we start to get into I guess where it starts to taper off in terms of results. So Rainbow Six Extraction, which was fun, but did nothing to move the needle.
That should just be a DLC. It should just be a game mode within
Absolutely.
Siege.
Come check out Siege, this new game mode. Even paid content. Roller Champions came out, the rollerblading game.
Yeah.
Then we got more Just Dance. Remember Oddballers?
No.
Which was the dodgeball version of Roller Champions.
Some of these games were fun, but they just didn't have the staying power.
Yeah. The Crew Motorfest, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar bombed for them. That was one of the first big ones. The Lost Crown last January reviewed well, but
did really well. Yeah.
Skull and Bones.
I think that was Lost Crown is one of these gleaming goals. Yes, Ubisoft can still make a fucking good game,
but arguably seen from a visual point of view as an indie game, and I don't think many people played it. Skull and Bones, we knew that was going to shit. That we could have told them it was a failure 5 years ago.
Yep.
They should have just got Black Flag Remake in that slot instead. X Defiant, RIP already. Like, it's just another case of Hyperscape all over again. We got another Prince of Persia game randomly. Like, however your timelines worked out, how the hell did you have two games?
Another side-scrolling Metroidvania style Prince of Persia game within a year, within like 6 months. Like,
yeah. And then obviously Outlaws, which apparently I think before Christmas was like it sold less than 2 million, which is insane. But that's partially down to Star Wars' current state of affairs, as well as I think Ubisoft's. It's a bad mix. And then
it was a bad mix. The game that the produced wasn't good enough to overcome that hurdles.
Yeah. And then Shadows has had 3 delays now.
Yeah,
should have been out for 3 months at this point.
And actually bringing our next story into this conversation, Ubisoft have also delayed story content for the Division 6 Year 6.
They should have never gone back to it. They made a mistake by discontinuing content for Division 2, but by that point they should have just cracked on with Division 3.
Yeah.
Don't wait. But then the problem they had is massive
as well.
Yeah, forgot about that. Yeah, Division Heartlands was scrapped. But the problem with that is Massive were working on Outlaws. So your devs who would have been doing Division 3 have been strung up for the last 5 years making Outlaws. So it's it's just bad resource management and bad marketing, and like we've said time and time again, but chasing trends rather than being industry defining. Yeah,
rather than focusing on making good games, they make great games. They focus on making arcade games. I don't think any Ubisoft game is actually bad.
I'm a big Ubisoft fan.
Skull and Bones isn't a bad game.
Just no one wants it.
It's fine. But do you have time in your gaming schedule for just fine? That's the problem nowadays. Mm-hmm. I think if you're not hitting the 8 out of 10, you're basically not getting looked at. Because people are busy. Games are way bigger than they used to be. You've probably noticed that. We're going back to the Indiana Jones games. I noticed it as well, playing the Uncharted games last year. Games are just objectively much bigger, and there's much bigger expectations in terms of the time sink.
Yeah. And the pool of games is bigger. Like, how many games have we gone back to and played from yesteryear? Like, you went through the entire Uncharted series. That could have been 50 hours of gameplay on something new. But when nothing's getting your attention in the current lineup, you look back and go, oh, you know what? I'll stick some comfort food on. It's a known quantity. It's a great game. It's got fantastic storytelling. I'll go enjoy that again. It's the same reason we go back to our favourite movies and our favourite series time and time again. But this is what happens. You don't stop chasing trends and try and do something unique in yourself. But
if you when you chase trends, you're already behind. When you're chasing the trend, you're already behind because the trends in games can move quite quickly. By the time and the development time in the game is quite long. So by the time if the trend emerges, 5 years later, you get your game out that chased that trend. The trend's moved on, so you're behind. You have to be in front of it.
Yeah.
Or forget about the trends entirely and just focus on going, this is the style of game we're passionate about. We're just going to do this.
Yeah. And even reading the tweet they put out says, "Greetings, agents. Our team is dedicated to continuing to build the future of The Division 2. We have exciting updates and start including the new season. We can't wait for you to play starting February 25th. We know you're eagerly awaiting the release of the upcoming DLC. To ensure we deliver the best possible experience, we've decided to take a little extra time to refine it. Therefore, the DLC will not ship during Year 6. Thanks for your patient support." Just that beginning, we're excited to build the future of The Division 2. You should be building the future of The Division 3.
Yeah.
The game's 6-year-old now, and you've almost like killed your fan base by taking so long.
And you already said you'd already had plans to sunset it, and because of fan reaction, you decided to go for one last hurrah.
Yeah.
So
It's,
I don't
even
know,
looking at the comments, people are like, "I've not played in a year, just logged on to check." It's like, not even surprised. Like, at this point, just double down on 3 and let 2 rest. 2 was a great game. It is much loved, clearly. But again, business decisions. You should have just ploughed forward.
Well, I think the Push Square article we're reading from sums it up. We're still reeling from the shock of learning the 2019 title was still being supported. We just assumed the devs were already fully committed to Division 3 at the stage.
I mean, let's face it. If Ubisoft are smart, the Division it's one of their pillars that I think number 3 would sell well. Don't put a 3 on it.
Rainbow Six Siege both had staying power.
I think they still do, and I think the Division, the next entry, don't put a 3 on it. Make it a platform, and come out and say we've got a 10-year roadmap for this, like Destiny did and Bungie, and say like, look, we know you love it, we know you like the grind, you love coming back. This is our content, and they must have learned something from the last 2 games to know what it's required to get people coming back to it. It's one of the few live service games that I've actively played for a long, long time. I got the platinum in the first one, which is rare in my wheelhouse of games. So, yeah, don't put a number on it. Call it the Division something, Heartlands, maybe. Use that copyright that you've already got. And, just make it a games as a service. It's a platform. Hell, even go free-to-play Ubisoft. You might as well. Throw the dice. But it looks like Ubisoft aren't the only company mismanaging their games and season pass, Richie.
No, of course. MultiVersus is getting shut down after season 5. And the game will go offline as well.
That's the problem with games now, isn't it? Because they're all connected online. It's like, remember when you just had a multiplayer game? Can it not just have couch co-op? And I can play I can buy MultiVersus and play couch co-op with my friends or my brother or whoever. But reading from their Twitter post, Season 5 will serve as the final update for MultiVersus, beginning 2nd of April 25 and ending our American date, 4th of February, ending 30th of May. After Season 5 ends, players will be able to enjoy the game offline for the foreseeable future. Dun, dun, dun. MultiVersus was such a good name as well, and they've ruined it.
I feel my sneaking suspicion here is the foreseeable future thing suggests that they're not done with it. I wonder if there's some licensing issues, because that's the problem with MultiVersus.
They own it all, though. It's all WB IP. Yeah, it's WB Games, it's WB IP. The reason they pulled it offline was to polish it up and make it better, and then they made that foolish mistake of taking it away from people and then bringing it back. Think it was going to have a second wind. It's like, that's not how games work. No. You fools. Like,
what you should do is wait until you're ready, then launch it. Yeah. Because a bad launch can kill you. And some games can come back from that. Like No Man's Sky is very much the poster child of that.
Yeah.
But a game like MultiVersus,
it was daft.
It is effectively a Smash clone.
Yeah, and it had that moment in time. If you remember everyone talking about Shaggy going Super Saiyan and stuff, like, it had the zeitgeist in the moment, and they ruined it because they didn't have the content to support it.
Exactly, and
WB,
but again,
what you doing?
If you look at Smash Bros is a perfect example. You bring out a bloody good game, and you don't have to worry too much about your DLC pathway, because Smash Bros just sells millions of copies every time they bring out a game, because they've got great classic characters, it plays incredibly well, they know what they're doing. MultiVersus, like, you have to get for any fighting game, like we were talking about racing games earlier in the show. You got to get the feel right. They've got to feel right. If they don't, you're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, just to summarise that, MultiVersus began with a long open beta period, which is, I think, where all the hype was coming from. Everyone who was playing it was like, hey, this is fun, these characters are cool. That's when it reached its peak popularity. Then they took the game offline, working it for its official launch, but with an open beta, it kind of felt like it was out because everyone was playing it. There was no limit on it. Anyone could sign up and just get in. It finally arrived in May last year. That's it. Just May last year is when it came out. It struggled to retain its audience ever since. And at the moment, its Steam numbers are currently sitting at 336.
Yeah. But I think as well for marketing this game, Nintendo's already showed you how to do it. The Smash reveal trailers, they're brilliant. They just completely draw everyone's attention, and then you go, oh yeah, he's a new character. It's usually a short trailer, a minute or two, and people go buy Smash for the huge roster of characters, but they stay for the quality of the gameplay.
Yeah, it's one of them. If you look at other games that came out last year officially with live service, Helldivers 2 currently, again, MultiVersus is at 300 odd. Helldivers on 52,500, Palworld 65,500.
Yeah,
that's the numbers you're looking to compete with to remain ever successful.
Yeah,
if you're down to 300 odd, your days are numbered.
I think something like MultiVersus could potentially survive in the few thousand, maybe 10,000. You don't have to be 50, 100,000 potentially, but you do have to have some player base.
But this is why couldn't it just be a game that you can play with your friends? Why does it need to be online, server-based, DLC-based? Can I not just go buy a disc copy of MultiVersus, have my brother or you round with someone, have a couple of beers, and Shaggy will fight Batman, or Gandalf will fight one of the paedophiles from Clockwork Orange. Whatever roster you want to do, Scooby-Doo versus Arya from Game of Thrones, whatever crazy shit we want to do, why can't it just be a game? Why does it have to be ever online? Because then at least you could still sell copies for years to come.
Because
rather than just
WB, they very much have a touch of the Ubisoft. They're chasing trends, they're chasing games as a service, and it's never worked. Like Ubisoft, has rarely worked for them. What tends to work for WB is these first-person action-adventure games, like Shadow of Mordor or Hogwarts Legacy. And, they're great games.
Single-player games. Like Sleeping Dogs, Richie. I'm good with my segues this week.
Sleeping Dogs. Oh,
you've put skip, that's why.
Yeah,
I didn't read the dog, sorry.
So we'll quickly cover it since you've already brought it up. Marvel star randomly reveals plan to revise Sleeping Dogs movie project and wants a sequel game. I have no idea what Sleeping Dogs is, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, it's basically like a little Grand Theft Auto game that came out on PS3 era, and it was like Grand Theft Auto, but it was set in Japan. Like Yakuza meets Grand Theft Auto, almost. Right. Proper cult classic. I remember I had it on PlayStation Plus. It's one of the first PlayStation Plus claimable games I got. Played a couple of hours, but it just at the time I was busy playing BioShock or something else, and I didn't get around to it. But yeah, Simu Liu's the guy from Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. He's really into his game and into his tech. He just randomly tweeted out this week. Someone asked him I absolutely want a Sleeping Dogs 2. If Sleeping Dogs movie is happening, hopefully it'll generate some interest. And then he just tagged him and said, are you going to play the main character? Please work your magic. And he just replied, going working with the rights holders right now to bring it to the big screen. And then it was and then after the fact, someone was oh, what? Okay. And then he said, he followed it up with an actual tweet saying, few film projects make it a pitch and then to greenlight phase because they don't understand the game. Everyone's overwhelming love of Sleeping Dogs has really given us life. And then he goes on to say first a movie, then a sequel game for everyone. That's always been the dream. So clearly this actor just loves the role. He knows it's almost like Batista trying to will his role in the Gears of War movie into existence by saying he's talking about mentions it in interviews. It's like The Rock and Black Adam. And then I guess on a flip side to that, Elliot Page, as well as recently, his production studio has bought the rights to... Did I say her there? I mean him. It's one of them.
Yes, you did.
I'm so used to saying Ellen Page, sorry. Elliot Page's production company has bought the rights to the Beyond Two Souls movie from Quantic Dream. It's one of them like a Telltale game almost, but visually looks absolutely stunning. We had Heavy Rain, we had Quantic Dream do Beyond Two Souls, and then we got Detroit Become Human, which is a fantastic game. Seemingly, Elliot Page wants to make a movie or / TV show of it, so more video game adaptations. They're the hot thing right now. We'll see these two, hopefully, in the years to come. And I think that detached as far as video games go, you could put out a movie and I don't think anyone would even know they're a game. Like, I speak to so many people in my day-to-day at work talking about games, and they don't know The Last of Us is a game. They don't know Uncharted was a game. They know Sonic was a game just because it's so big.
Yeah,
but it is that cross entertainment pollination is so rich now. It's How many people watched Twisted Metal? But even thought a van with a clown driving it and Anthony Mackie running around was a video game. Very, very few. I challenge you.
Yeah, because that was just weird. That was a weird one.
Get renewed for season 2.
Yeah, but that is all we have time for this week. And as always, we like to end the show with This Week in Video Game History. Chris, today of recording is the 1st of February. What is jumping out to you?
The biggest thing nearly is probably SimCity 3000. 26 years ago today. I have a lot of fond memories with SimCity.
I don't know which one of SimCity I've played, to be honest. I think it's quite a quiet day as we're moving into February. But there's a few titles starting to crop up. The Life is Strange remaster collection 3 years ago.
3 years
on
already,
PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Stadia.
Wow. 2nd of February has Sonic the Hedgehog 3, 31 years ago, in 1994.
Banger.
Yeah, that's probably the last of the good ones before they start to tail off with like Sonic and Knuckles is good. Then you got Sonic CD, and then we started to enter that 3D realm where it really just lost its way for 20 years until the movies apparently come back and gross over $1 billion. Yeah.
Valheim came out 4 years ago. East 9 Months from Nox came out 4 years ago on PlayStation 4 and Stadia. Game FAQs doesn't state Stadia, but I can guarantee it came out on Stadia because we have a Let's Play on the channel on Stadia, which I did.
Certainly do. And the last one for me is probably February 3rd. Miss Pac-Man came out 43 years ago in arcades. That's back in 1982. And for a lot of people, Miss Pac-Man, better than the original. Better than Mr. Pac-Man. Yeah. Give Miss Pac-Man her flowers.
Indeed. But that is all we have time for this week. If you've liked the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of our fantastic content here at GamerGuildTV, where next week, hopefully, we'll be returning to The Last of Us in our Let's Play. Chris will undoubtedly spend all of his money on some new video games at the convention we're going to.
Let us know in the comments below, because I think I'm definitely going to spend some money. Something might catch your eye. I think Tom's going to come in clutch because we know what Tom can get like, and he's going to spend way more than both of us anticipated because he's going to see something so unique and he's going to go home and go to his wife, look what I've bought. And he's going to get in trouble for it. But let us know in the comments.
Indeed. Or you can let us know in our Discord. The link is in the description below. And with that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Chris.
GG everyone. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.